We are back, the ABJ Podcast, for episode 16. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Just going to get this quick nonsense stuff I hate doing in the beginning out of the way. The housekeeping, carny nonsense where I tell you to check the links below. And if you would like to support the podcast, we do have things like Patreon, which I'm trying to go for now, where you can go as little as $1, or if you're a big ass baller, you can go higher if you want. That helps general support of the podcast, new equipment, paying for the bills like StreamYard and things that keep this train moving, as well as merchandise links also below. Also, check the links below. Two wrestlers right now that are injured that can use your support. Adena Steele and Philly Mike Swanson both recently got hurt a couple months ago, and they're looking like they're going to be out most of this year. Hopefully, they can bounce back sooner. But that injury doesn't just affect their job, their job in the ring, but it affects their real life jobs, and it's tough for them to make money right now. So if you can go down below and support them, they have subscription services, T-shirts, 8x10s, or you can just shoot over to their social media and say hi and say you're thinking about them. Because when you take time away from this business as well, sometimes that mental aspect of seeing if people still remember you sometimes creeps in, and just being thought about makes that recovery process a lot better. I'm rocking currently the Philly Mike Swanson shirt. So one of the things I've been doing a lot in the show, but I didn't really put it over, is I try to always wear a different independent shirt when I'm on camera. So I'm going to start acknowledging the people I'm wearing because I think that's a cool thing to do. So I think that's all I got. Yeah, follow me on all social media. Anthony Blackwell Jr. A Blackwell Jr. will also get you some places. All the links are above my head where you can find me. And we just created literally 15 minutes ago the brand new ABJ Podcast Facebook community page. So we have that and a Discord that you can join and meet a whole bunch of new people and talk fun things like beer, wrestling, pop culture, all this crazy stuff. I'm sure right now they're all blowing up with the brand new news that Stephanie McMahon just stepped down as the co-CEO of WWE. So that's probably going to be a shit show that I'll be learning about as this interview concludes in the chat as well as afterwards. But without further ado, let me bring my guest in for episode 16 here. And what better person to talk about? I'm very excited. I'm going to learn a lot about this person that I didn't think I didn't know before. And that's what this is all about, is learning about people and discovering new things. So without further ado, Skiff.
Hey.
What's going on, man?
It's been a crazy day. About 10 minutes ago, I just found out that I'm going to be co-CEO of the WWE.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
Do you get like a budget of hush money, or is that discussed yet? Is that like a?
I mean, I don't think I'm getting paid.
Oh, that's usually pro wrestling.
Yeah, hot dog and a handshake, I think is the hush money.
Yeah. What pays less, stand-up comedy or professional wrestling? Are they pretty equal?
Probably stand-up. But that's mainly because you also like do a lot of shows for free, like that
to
you
get exposure.
Yeah, or like it's an open mic that you're going to like work on your craft. That can be considered like similar to like, I the dojo shows. Like a lot of companies are doing that now, is at their training center when their students get to a certain level, they start filming matches there. Like those matches, they're not getting paid for that. They're technically probably still paying tuition. So
yeah, they're probably paying to wrestle.
But yeah, so that's similar in that aspect. And then, I mean, if you do like a bar show, you might get $10, $20, or just drink tickets. And
yeah,
I mean, I might take a hot dog over that.
Yeah. Sometimes that bar food can be sneaky, you know. But yeah. So how did you get into this world of professional wrestling?
So I started training when I was 16. And so I couldn't drive at the time. In fact, one of the first times where like my mom like taught me how to drive was after a training session. But so I had to choose a school that was local to me. I'm in the Northern Virginia area. I started training with a company called Kaida Pro, Keep Your Dreams Alive. At this time, their training center was in the back of a daycare. It just had like gymnastic mats. I trained there like every Saturday for maybe 3 months. I did not see the ring at all. It was just the like gymnastic floor mats. And then the owner was living in New York at the time. And if you've never seen a map in your life, New York and Virginia, not the closest.
Yeah, that's a haul.
Um, but I was 16. It was like fine, and like honestly, if like there are underage kids training, it's probably good to not be in a ring, like ruining your development in your body. But so mainly we just learned basic chain, um, and then doing like rolls and stuff and cardio. Um, but then because the owner was in New York, it ended up shutting down. Um, Essentially, one of the people from the previous class was asked to be the head trainer, and he's like, "No, I'm not qualified for that at all." And so at 16, the dream kind of died a little bit. About a year later, the company did reopen their training school. This time it was in a strip mall, and there was like a Mexican church next door, and then on like behind us was like a porn shop.
Love that. That's about as pro wrestling as you get. Church, porn, and wrestling.
Yeah. So it fun experience going into that. Um, but that's where we had a ring that time. And so I started training then. Um, Probably like at that point I could drive, so I could have potentially chosen something else, but again, this was fairly close to where I lived, and I was still getting the previous rate that I had agreed on and signed a contract for, and so I decided to stick with it. Maybe if I had chose to like drive up to Philly, like that was the other option, but that's still 3 hours for me. Um, and I was 17, so I still had like school in the morning and things like that. Um, but that was fun. I started training there. That class with me, Nyla Rose was there. They were in my class.
Yeah, she's out of Virginia. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then shortly after I started, Logan Easton LaRue was also there. So
Yo, criminally underrated.
yeah,
Criminally underrated. Like
I love
there's no reason why he's not on TV. He's so good.
absolutely. Like I love Logan, and he's great. I was happy when he showed up because when he showed up, he asked me like what wrestling I watched, and I was like, oh, I watch like Ring of Honor, and he was the only person at that time at our school that did watch anything independence. Everyone else was like strictly WWE stuff. And so it was cool that he was there and someone else to talk about things I actually liked and could try and do stuff other than what was on TV.
Yeah, and Ring of Honor is that's a deep cut at that. At what year is that?
2007.
Wow.
So I mean,
yeah, you're ahead of the curve.
Yeah, it's probably still like just when they started to decline, but their popularity was on the rise still.
Yeah, that's I didn't realize how big of a deal Ring of Honor was until like maybe a year or two ago. I knew it existed, but I never realized the history there and who came out of it and what was built out of that. And then learning about it just from doing content creating and wrestling and kind of going back and relearning things. And then being in the Worldwide Dojo and then being like, wow, we're essentially in the heart of ROH at one point in time, in this place, and hearing all the stories about the broken squat racks behind us because Cesaro shattered it, and sitting in the going in CB's office and being like, that's where Punk and Daniel Bryan and people like Kevin Owens walked through the doors. Like, this is unbelievable. So yeah, and it's kind of cool that it's in our immediate area in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it like discovering Ring of Honor probably saved my fandom in wrestling. Because like the early 2000s WWE was bad, and then like I started watching TNA, and then that started to get bad too, and then I found the independents, and that revived everything, got me checking out stuff from Japan as well.
Yeah, so Was wrestling always a big part of your childhood and growing up? And were you always in, like, did you always just like, how did you find wrestling? Like, was it your parents were into it and it kind of stumbled across, or how did you get that bug?
So my parents weren't really the earliest I can remember is it must have been some like WCW like C show that my dad put on. I guess maybe it was WWF, but it was like Macho Man and like mini Macho Man against like Doink and Dink. And like I remember enjoying that. And then like they would buy me like wrestling action figures, and like I enjoyed playing with those and everything. And like I had a ring and things like that. But I wasn't like watching all the time. And then I started to during that, probably right at the Attitude Era. But then I decided to order a pay-per-view without their permission, which you
60,
shouldn't.
$65.
It was probably less than that at the time. But
You remember what one it was?
I don't. I don't remember
My
what
first
it was.
pay-per-view my parents ever bit the bullet and ordered for me was WrestleMania with HBK and Razor in the ladder match. And I watched it 100 times. I just kept repeating it the whole time, just watching it back, watching back, watching back. That was my first pay-per-view.
Yeah, I can't. It wasn't a WrestleMania, and my parents found out and were mad about it. And my dad and they like asked me, of course, and I was like, "Oh, I probably sat on the phone and it did it on its own."
It dialed the number and then agreed to it, and
yeah.
now you just hit a button, you can accidentally order and be like, "Oh, I didn't know. I was trying to hit back and the remote froze."
Yeah, I wanted to see how much it cost. I didn't know I was gonna buy it, but like clearly you can't sit on the phone and have that happen. And so they canceled like cable. So then for a while I just had basic cable, and like not just like watching wrestling, but just watching TV in general as like an elementary school kid was rough. So I could really only like watch SmackDown because that was on like UPN, which was just barely on basic cable. But I still watched that. And then I kept watching it after that point.
Yeah. Now, from being from the Virginia area and working in that scene, how did you then gravitate up to the northeast area?
So the company I trained with ended up closing when I went to college, because I did take a year and a half off. Training actually got me to graduate high school early, which is fun. My senior year, I only needed 2 classes to graduate, and my school was like, "Hey, you can take 5." And I was like, "I only need 2 to graduate. Why would I take 5?" And they're like, "Well, you can like work." And I was like, no, I'm not taking classes. I don't need to. And so they said I could go to an alternative school if I had a good reason. And my reason was trying to be a professional wrestler. And they bought it. And so I just had 2 classes and I graduated a semester early.
They're probably like, "This is one less kid we have to worry about. Like, just get them out the door."
Yeah. I don't know if they read like, and like, I don't think I was training at that time, because I think I told them that before they like shut down when I was still in the daycare, and that was like on Saturdays. So like that didn't impact school at all. But they bought it. I went to the school. I got A's. Like it was a great school. It was mainly for like kids who get kicked out of other schools and don't like want to graduate, but aren't allowed at the other schools. And then like pregnant moms who don't have like time to be doing like a full year, but they can do a semester. So like it was full of people who wanted to be in school, and like the teachers didn't give us homework and stuff. It was great. But yeah,
immediately when you said that, I thought of like kids that were like Sunday, like summer school, where it's just like, so our summer school, because we live in like a cold region, so it's like all these different like 80 schools, and they all send their same just dirtball kids to one area, and that's summer school. So it's like the all-star team of just the worst kids of every school. And wow, I had to do summer school 1 year, and it was a shit show.
So this wasn't, because like if you get kicked out of school, you can just not go to school anymore.
Yeah.
Like these are kids that like are going because they wanted to graduate. They did get kicked out. They most likely did have some issues going on, but like they didn't have to be there.
Yeah.
So like it was actually like there's not a ton of fights. Like it's like there were bad kids, but it not too bad.
Yeah, they're there because they're looking for that second chance.
Yeah. And so wrestling got me out. So I spent a year and a half without going to college. Then I went to college in North Carolina, and again, like still kind of mid 2000s. So a lot of the stuff I had done with the company I trained with, I didn't have like access to like send that to promoters and things like that. And so I get to school. There's a company down there that runs nearby. So I do hit them up. The very first show that they're doing while I'm down there is an all cage show. And I was like, oh, I don't know if this is a company I want to do. Because again, like I've trained for at this point, maybe 2 years. I wasn't really ready to start doing death matches and cage shit. And it would be fine now. And eventually after some time I did go to them. And I did work with them a few different times. But it just seemed like not a great situation. And then there's not really like companies where I'd have to drive. It's like hard to get in with them without having stuff I can send them, whether it's a DVD or a YouTube link at that time. So I come back from college. The company that I trained with is now closed. So I don't have it in there.
Is that Philly company?
No. That's still,
I didn't know if you were. I didn't know if you were training out of Chikara or not, because like a lot of people who were part of Camp Leapfrog were all like Chikara affiliated.
No, so I would have trained with them, but again, it was 3 hours, and there was a school 30 minutes from my house.
Yeah.
I did look into it a bunch though, but no. So it was Kaida, where I had originally trained. They were closed, and so then it's so hard to run shows in Virginia or DC that there just wasn't anything at that time. And so at that point, kind of I've been out for a few years. It's like I don't really have anything to show someone to give me a chance. So I kind of just didn't do anything for a few years. Then a company started called Nova Pro in Virginia, and Logan was going to be one of their stars and was one of their stars. So I just went to watch, and me and Logan reconnected. And so I started helping out at Nova Pro. I started doing commentary there because I didn't want to pay for a license, and they were bringing in a lot of stars. Like if you look at their cage match, like there's a reason that people weren't getting paid what they were supposed to or at all. And so I didn't think I belonged on the shows, but I started doing commentary, and I really liked commentary with them. But then Nova Pro closed down for a lot of different reasons. And I had just gotten my foot in there to start doing commentary. I did a few matches with them as well, and they closed down. The matches I did with them are on shows that never got released. So again, didn't have footage to give to someone else at this point. And so then I'm still talking with Logan. He asked me if I want to ride up with him to a Camp Leapfrog show. And I was like, yeah, I'm not really doing anything. It's the pandemic. There's like nothing to do. So I rode up with Logan to Camp Leapfrog, and kind of just started all over again. Like, hey, can I help out? Can I do this? I did some commentary for them. I eventually pitched an idea of me essentially being like a Bobby Dempsey type character, where I was just with people that treated me bad.
You had
and
that
so
that green suit.
Yeah, and I started doing some managing up there. And that's how I got into Camp Leapfrog up there. Really was just being friends with Logan and willing to keep him company on a long ride.
That is so key too. Like We talked about that on a podcast maybe two episodes ago with like we call Mike our gateway drug because Mike doesn't drive and he'll just be like, "Yo, I need a car ride to get to this next show. Who wants to ride?" And he's booked, but he just needs a way there.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, man, you just take that ride with him and you bring a car full. And wrestling companies are like, "Oh, you're here. 3 people didn't cancel, or you know how to do this, this, and this, and you can do commentary and you can do this." Like, yo, welcome to the team. And then you're getting opportunities, and then you find a new niche, a new little family, and you're off to the races.
Yeah, like that's how I got up there, and I had a lot of fun, so I kept coming back, and then was getting to do some stuff there, and and then once again, pretty much my entire wrestling career, it shuts down.
You are the bad bug. Well, it's not your fault they're shutting down, but maybe you're a jinx. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's every time it's like, oh, now I gotta start over. Thankfully, at the time, Flying V was starting back up after it had kind of shut down for a little bit as well. And they asked me to do commentary with Big Dust, who I love, and I was super excited to do that.
You and Dust on, I got to check that out. Flying V?
Yeah, it's on IWTV. Me and Big Dust do commentary. He's great. I'm just there. He loves me, but it's a lot of us still giving everything that's going on respect and attention, but we're also fun guys, so we are having fun, but it's not jokes just to have jokes. We're not trying to overshadow the product or anything.
Yeah.
We're just having fun watching and telling everyone what we're seeing.
Yeah, I just wrote that down. I'm gonna check that out. Where are they based out of, Flying V?
So that's in Maryland. They run a black box theater.
Okay.
And so they tend to have like a theater audience. And so they do put a lot of emphasis on like characters, and making things kind of mesh with the theater audience. Their last show, they did a co-show with a company called Super Art Fight, which is like they have 2 artists who are just drawing on a sheet of paper at the same time. And it's weird and crazy and fun.
That sounds like something I would absolutely love, to be honest with you. That sounds amazing.
They're incredible artists.
Yeah, like I fell into the Sanctuary. That's kind of by me. It's an old church. They converted it into a wrestling studio, and it's one of those places too. You walk in and you kind of look at the history and like, holy crap, look at the people who came through here. But it's kind of like how you said, those dojo shows, where it's kind of like, it's a venue. Do you want to come work? You can. The guy who runs it literally is losing money every month just keeping the building afloat, so he can't pay anybody. But it's a good place that the lights look good, the cameras look good, the production's good, and you can get your footage because it's on YouTube right then and there live, and it's a good way to get your resume up as well too. Because that's what you brought up is a really good point when it comes to this business. Like, you go and work your ass off at a school, or you go work yourself up in a company, and then some promoter is a dirtball or something crazy shit happens, and then you lose your entire category or catalog, and now you can't promote yourself because no one knows who you are. Because that's a huge thing too when you take a step back in the independent wrestling scene, is you are 1 in a million. Like, you think wrestling in general on TV is big, independent's 3 times as big, and it's everyone trying to fight and claw on their way up to the next level. And that's why when like companies shut down and then like you're like, oh well, the entire catalog is now erased because that person was so bad, like we can't show their footage anymore. And I'm kind of in that boat where like, I get it, that person shouldn't get paid, like, because we don't want to support them, but the work that the people put in the ring shouldn't be shut down or shut off, or like, because that's footage for them, that's opportunities for them to showcase what they can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
But who else in the Virginia scene did you work with besides like a Nyla or a Logan that we may know?
So at our school, Christian York was my head trainer, from ECW, which he wasn't. He was kind of by name the head trainer, but he was there for a little bit. And then mainly John Kerman was my trainer. who I think he's great. I think he could have done more. He had a few ROH matches. I think he was in ECW as Kerman the German, or ECWA. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I got to meet Johnny Fairplay. He loved my gimmick at the time.
Well, what were you doing there?
So I had a cutoff poison shirt and then just bright green pants. So not the full bodysuit. I was in much.
You really
better
like
shape.
that green.
That's my signature. That's why I bought the green bodysuit. Is I bought a silver one, but I was like, well, I used to wear the green, so if ever I have to do something different, and then like, and then just I was like, what if I just tried to wear the weirdest outfits possible?
We always joked around as like, what if we had the production to just green screen different outfits on you because you had the morph suit? Like, if we were just good enough with CGI and special effects, like put you in different things.
and I would have loved it. I think there was the last Halloween special, not like the high tension one, but the previous one.
Yeah.
It was I got murdered because of course I did.
Yeah. Is that when we drowned you in the pool?
No, that was Killian Vision, which is fantastic.
Yeah. That was the first time I got to use my GoPro in water, so that was kind of fun. They're like, we need to shoot a water scene. I was like, I have a GoPro because I had everything in my car.
Yeah.
That was like the joke, is Blackwell has literally anything equipment wise in his trunk of his car. And like, I have a GoPro, and then we send Devin under the water, and then he filmed you dying.
And then Killian's just asking me if I can stay underwater longer. Like, what if you just did it longer this time?
What if we just legit drowned you?
Yeah, but then the next the Halloween episode, I got murdered, and I was like, well, what if we had the villain just like, I'm in my green suit and he's just holding me by the head, and then you CGI like my body out of it with the green suit. But I don't think they were able to make it work. But I was like,
we weren't that good yet on the production side of things.
I was like, well, let's film it. If you can give it a go and see if it works, but don't spend too much time on it.
Yeah, we were still in the very early stages of production. It's crazy, honestly, what they were able to accomplish, and then me coming in later on, because I had no idea what I was doing when it came to video editing, and I think the first thing I was thrown into was Frog Sport. And then they're like, all right, we need you to edit these matches and do this, and this. And I was like, I had to learn how to put the ball. And then we did the WCW video games where it was like the photos, and then it would play like a little, I'm going to beat you up. And then it would pause, and then the next one would play. And I was like, and I learned, I'd like YouTube, and because I didn't want to like tell people I didn't know what I was doing. And I also wanted an opportunity, and I wanted to get good and better and be a part of it. So they're like, can you do this? I was like, yeah, no problem. And I'm just like, how do I do this? Yeah. And it worked. No one seemed to not hate what I did, and people liked it when it aired. So fake it till you make it, brother.
I mean, that's just what everyone's doing.
Yeah, every single person. Like, you're never a commentary, bro. I've been commentary since I'm born. You're like first show ever.
That's another thing. Like sometimes I regret the school I did choose to train at, because really we just kind of learned the basics, and like a lot of it was bumping and selling, and then like we would learn how to like put together a match, but like I wasn't taught a lot of moves. So whenever someone wanted to do a move, I'm like, yeah, sure. How do I take that? And it's just like, just let me know, I'll do it. And like, cause I had the if there was two things I learned, it was how to bump and how to sell. Yeah. And like wrestling was just getting out of the era when like you needed to be able to do a lot of moves, essentially. And like, all I really wanted to do was I wanted to be a big guy who just got squashed. And like that and comedy matches, but like, it was just like squash matches, especially on the indies, were gone at this point. And it's just like,
how did we never put you and Abs together?
I
Two big
pitched
guys
it.
who take a lot of losses, and like
Yeah.
you and Abs in an Iron Man match that just because no one can actually beat the other one would have been gold.
Yeah. Like I
It goes to a time
essentially
limit draw every time.
I mean,
Alex,
I'm
if you're
for it.
listening.
But yeah, like essentially like eventually my character like just like, what if I'm just a wrestler who doesn't know how to wrestle?
I love that.
And it's like anything I do is so surprising to me.
That's a great character, and that's the thing is sometimes when you take yourself less serious and just go out and have fun, that's the stuff that sticks to people, man. Like that's that's the moments that people are like, oh, that's hilarious, that's funny, that's what I want to keep watching. Is sometimes when it gets goofy, you know, and then some people listen to Cornette and they hate it because he told you not to like it, but that's neither here nor there.
But like it makes sense.
Yeah,
Like in Cornette's world, it makes sense that like, oh, this guy doesn't know how to wrestle. Exactly. That's the character. I don't.
Yeah, make the character make sense and you'll be fine. Yeah, so talking about the Nylites, like I was bummed. I think I missed her by a year and a half. Like by the time I was just getting in, she was breaking into like the AEW side of things. But every single person I know that worked with her said she's amazing and giant nerd, and it'd just been fun to conversate with all the pop culture stuff. Because that's another thing I love at wrestling shows is just like in the downtime when people aren't talking wrestling and we're just sitting around talking like video games and movies and horror movies and just stupid shit for hours. But yeah, so Leapfrog, not a lot of people know too is you're kind of a little bit of an unsung hero with Leapfrog. You're helping a lot on the back end of things as well. Still to this day, you're still helping out with a lot.
I try. I would do.
It's noticed. Yeah. Trust me, it's definitely noticed. You're keeping the spirit alive without even people knowing it's you doing it. But I wanted to give you your roses there. Leapfrog looks like it's looking like it's slowly rising from the ashes at Christmas Trios. We got a little trios action, which was a little nod, and then we had some storylines telling of who's going to be in charge of Camp Leapfrog, and that kind of culminated. If you want to go check it out, it is free right now on YouTube. Go watch Christmas Trios over on on High Tension Wrestling YouTube channel. I will put the link in the chat in 1 second here that you guys can go and subscribe and check it out. Let me.
Don't watch it right now. Watch it.
Not right now. Don't watch this first and then go back and check it out. But you can definitely go and subscribe. They're currently sitting at 257 subscribers. So if we can get them a bump and get more people to check them out, that'd be unbelievable. And I would love you guys forever. But
absolutely,
yeah. A lot of cool stuff coming there soon, and a lot of opportunities to see some really good matches that you guys maybe missed out on with IWTV. That'll maybe some of them shifting over, and opportunities for you guys to see some fun stuff because there has been a lot of great moments at Camp Leapfrog. But that's what I want to pose to you here next is what were some of your favorite moments at Camp Leapfrog, even if they didn't involve you? Just some matches that stand out, or some feuds, or anything like that.
I mean, Killian Vision was fantastic. Everything they did with that was great. Me dying was one thing, but like everything else with how they made every match feel different, feel like a different era, was great. And then like the finish to that show's spectacular. It'll make you cry. It's that good.
The Goons are gold, man. They're just good at what they do, and they deserve everything they get because they put the work in.
Yeah. And like I'm thankful for them because I think like them going to Leapfrog and me just thinking of a dumb bit to go up and say to them, I think got me to connect with Dust. I had known Eel for a little bit as well, but that helped me get probably the Flying V job. But essentially I just went up to him and I was like, hey, can I join the Go-Ons? And they were like, what? And I was like, can I join the Go-Ons? You know, and like it took them a second to figure it out. And like when I had been waiting like months to say it too, and it was so happy.
And it landed, yeah. I love watching them put matches together because usually 90% of the time they're not even characters. That's just who they are in real life. But like you see people put the match together, like, oh, we're gonna do the lockup, and then we're gonna go here, and then and they have like every special spectacular name for everything. And then like you see the goons putting the match together, and they're like, all right, Killian's like, I'm gonna put you here, and then I'm gonna get you the whop and the bing and the bow, and then Dustin's like the bing, the bow, then the and they're legit putting a match together, but they're just so like they're just always entertaining. They should always have cameras on them. They're funny as fuck. But yeah, the I what I miss about Leapfrog was filming. It was almost I liked filming the matches and doing commentary, but almost taking a camera and be like, "Yo, go off," and you're gonna go help these people film a bit. They were just as fun as any wrestling things we did. Like watching people try to put bits together, and like I was super happy that I got picked to do the Friday skit with Julius, and like I got to film that. So like acting like I was getting knocked out and then rolling with the camera, like it was so much fun. And anytime you get to work with CC Boost and his crew as well as Julius Smokes is going to be a absolute fucking blast of a time.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason like I fit in so well there. Was that like the wrestling was there, but like we were essentially just shooting bits. Like
it was like Saturday Night Live meets wrestling. So it was like a bit then a wrestling match and a bit then a wrestling match, and it was fun.
Yeah, and like that, like because essentially the time period when I wasn't doing wrestling for a while, like I got into stand up. Like I know how sketches work. I know bits and things like that. So like even if like I wasn't like even the first time I was there, all it was like a background and whatever, but I knew like when to pitch something and like how to make something work or funny.
Yeah.
And so like that got me some cred there and eventually moved up. Whereas if it was just a wrestling show, it's like harder to just pitch something to get yourself credit for knowing what to do.
And that was the good thing about Leapfrog too, is everybody was very receptive of that. Like I remember my first show was the Frog Sport, and I remember being there, and I was just like, Alex, do you think if they tried this, it would make sense? Like, because I love MMA, and I was like, instead of people like kind of sitting in the corner, like if you have people like Blackstrom, who's legit trained for jiu-jitsu, and somebody else like Yo-Yo, who's trained in like kickboxing, have them yell out like, "Pass the guard!" Look like how you would hear in a UFC fight or an MMA fight, and they're like, that's a good idea. And then McCask's like, yeah, here's what we're going to do. Like, so everyone was always just so accepting to people's input and making the show better, man. Like it was, I know it's said all the time, like, this locker room is better than any other locker room, you know what I mean? But it was like to be a part of a locker room like that, where everyone feels valued and everyone can contribute and everyone's able to input something. And even if it's not good, they'll be like, hey, like, we appreciate it, but we're going to go this direction because maybe you're swerving us a little bit. But everyone's had opportunities to put things out there, and that's what made it special. Is everyone you could watch something, and every single person who was involved in the show, even if it wasn't their match, was like, oh, I contributed a little bit there, like, and it was fun.
No, yeah, it was great.
Yeah. So you said there you kind of during the pandemic kind of shifted gears and started stand up. What drove you to do that? Like what was the motivating factor?
So it was longer than that. It was when I got back from college, and so there wasn't any wrestling in Virginia. In college, I had like lied and told people at my school that I did comedy, and I got on a few shows that my school put on and did terrible. But I had written jokes. I think I started by saying these jokes while my friend was playing like Call of Duty or whatever, when you know how you can always hear what people are saying. I was doing that while he was playing, which I'm sure everyone muted me, but I had jokes written, and I had done a few shows at my school. I actually had it in my like OkCupid profile that I did comedy. Again, because you lie on dating apps.
Yeah, and listen, even if we're not like if you're not maybe Brad Pitt, man, every girl says I want a guy to make me laugh, so you gotta shoot your shot,
Yeah, and so someone, because on that site you could just message people, at least you used to, could just message someone instead of having to like match. And so someone messaged me asking me if I had done this person's show, or I said check out this person's show, and I was like, oh, and so they had an open mic, and I started doing that open mic, and then I started doing more and more. It's been quite some time, like 7 years or so that I've been doing comedy. I wish I had done it before like starting wrestling, because like afterwards I knew so much more of how to connect with an audience. And like and like probably early on in wrestling you're just worried about not fucking up. But like connecting with an audience means so much more.
Yeah, you don't even have to be amazing in ring. If you can, if the crowd's buying into what you're selling, you can go all day long.
Yeah.
Andy
But yeah,
Kaufman wasn't the greatest wrestler, but he knew how to work the crowd.
oh, that stuff's great.
That's
I
still
don't-
one of, and hands down, probably my favorite thing that ever happened in the wrestling business. Like that story, I can listen to that being told by 14 different people and just hearing everyone's little input of what Kaufman did and those little things of like, call an ambulance, I'm selling this. Like I'll sit in the hospital for 3 days to sell this, but you know what I mean? Like I eat that up, man.
I don't know if they are still selling it, because I think they got rid of DVDs. But High Spots had a DVD of like everything Kaufman did in there. And I picked it up for like $5 or $10
I had to look for
during the
that. Yeah.
pandemic. But that's great to check out.
Just him wrestling random chicks from the crowd.
Yeah, and then like the law and like all the promos that he filmed and everything.
Yeah. Now, who are some comics that that you like or that inspired you to get into this?
So Norm Macdonald's probably, he's not number one, but he's normally the one I say because he's the most well known.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably number two, if that helps. But yeah, I love Norm. And like he's probably the funniest person there is.
Yeah, 100%. I love Norm.
And then there's a comedian named John Doerr who
Not
had
familiar
like
with him.
he had like a Comedy Central half hour, which is fantastic, that I loved. And he was like, he's not like weird, but it's just like slightly different.
Mm-hmm.
He has some of the funniest Conan sets I've ever seen. Like there's two different ones where him and Rory Scovel are both on Conan. One, they got double booked and they were going to split the time, except they just both were telling their jokes at the exact same time.
Did you watch the thing on Netflix with Attell and Ross bumping mics,
Mhm.
where they just go up together and just roast each other and talk? It was so fucking funny.
So this is similar, but they could not care less that the person's next to them. They are saying their own jokes to the audience, with no regard to who's next to them. Then there's another one where they like interact, and Rory's like a usher there, and then they just start yelling back and forth. And then Conan and Andy are like, "What are you guys doing?" And they're like, "Oh, you think this is easy?" And they switch places with with Conan and Andy. It's brilliant. I found him because he had like a TV show in Canada called The John Doerr Show, which was airing on IFC here. And this is after I've gotten cable back, so
Mm-hmm.
I was able to see it.
You weren't ordering pay-per-views anymore.
No.
Learn that lesson.
And I watched, and like that's where I like really started to like him, and I saw his Comedy Central half hour. I was like, oh, this is great. This is something I would like to do. And then I was able to start doing it.
Yeah, I don't think I'd ever have the balls to do stand-up comedy, but I love it. Friday nights, I remember they're like, "Yo, you
Mhm.
coming out to the football game?" And I was like, "No." And they're like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, I wouldn't tell anybody what I was doing, but I would literally stay home and watch Comedy Central Presents because it was like every Friday night, and they would just play all those comedy specials. And I remember watching so many of those, and then like 5, 6 years later, like those some of the people who did those half-hour specials then became monsters, like in the
Yeah.
comedy field. Like I remember watching Dane Cook before Dane Cook became Dane Cook, like Kevin
Mhm.
Hart, like Dunham, even though I'm not a really Dunham guy, but I remember seeing all those people in those specials, and I was like, this is like amazing. I remember the first one who I seen, two people that I remember just being like, I absolutely love them. Well, three. I loved Patrice O'Neal.
Mhm.
I loved him. I really liked Mitch Hedberg,
Mhm.
unfortunately passed away. And the third shit, fucking who was the third one that he killed me every time? I literally had it and I lost it. But Patrice was definitely very, very high up. Oh, Greg Giraldo. I
Mhm.
love Greg Giraldo. I really liked him a lot too, and we lost him. But yeah, I love stand-up comedy. I think the first CD I ever bought was like the Adam Sandler comedy bit CDs. Like they're all gonna laugh at you. Like
Yeah.
I've always been into comedy. It's like yeah, it's so much fun. And then we had some people in our area who just started like comedy stuff up here, so they do like open mics, and it's starting to gain some traction in our little tiny coal region. Um, when I did my music festival, I had like 6 bands, 3 covers, 3 original, and then 2 like headliners. And then in between each band, I had a stand-up comic go up from our local area and do
Mhm.
like a small set. But it's definitely something that I think more people need to support and look into. And when you go there, don't be that heckling piece of shit asshole.
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky. The DC area is really big with comedy. Um, we don't have like the industry that New York or LA has, or even Chicago has some. But like w- with DC, like there's just so many quality shows that you can do each night. Um, whereas like New York, you can do all those shows, but they're all bad until you get on the good ones.
Mhm.
Whereas like DC, like most of the shows are very good. Um, and there's still bad ones. But this area is growing. A lot of people that leave our scene to go somewhere else are like going on to do big things. Like they're prepared for New York or LA when they get there,
Yeah.
essentially.
Well, DC, I mean, maybe if you're not a fan of some of his most recent comedy, but I think one of the goats right now when it comes to just good at what they do. Chappelle's from the DC area.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's awesome, man. It's a great thing, and I think like right now, I think one of the biggest things you'll see, even if it's not in your algorithm, you'll be scrolling through TikTok or YouTube Shorts, and a lot of it's just stand-up comedy, like clips, like people
Mhm.
clipping their stand-up comedy, and I think that's really helping a lot of new comic people get out. There's this one guy from Canada who just came to America after the pandemic. I don't know. His whole thing is he like watches like a girl, and he'll be like, "What are you looking at? What are you looking at? You little fucking creep!" And he's like, "Follow me, you fucking idiots." But then he like did skits, and then he'll
Mhm.
post his stand up, and the guy's blowing up because of that. Like, it's just I don't know, man. It's right now I think is a cool generation to be in with social media. Like everyone hates like I'm not getting on this or I'm not getting on that, and like if you create content or you're putting anything out there, if you're not using these platforms, you're missing a boat. Like that's why I said with like the leapfrog and the wrestling, I was like everyone wants a photographer ringside and everybody wants film crews and productions, but like, you should honestly, at anything you do, if you're a podcaster, if you're a stand-up comic, anything, set a camera up or just have one of your buddies come with you if you can do it, and just
Mhm.
put your phone on you, like ringside. There should be someone who's just a digital media person ringside with a cell phone and just getting small little clips and just like, hey, boom, a 30-second clip of a spot during a match or this or that, and that should just be your TikTok and just pump it out because you never know who's going to see it, and it can help you blow up and get a lot more eyes on your product
Yeah. Plus, I mean, it's promoting the promotion you're at,
and
um,
yourself. Yeah,
and getting people to watch that stuff as well.
yeah. So if anyone in the chat has anything else they want to ask, we are getting close to that time. Is there anything, Skiff, that we didn't cover that you want to talk about?
I mean, I'm sad it's taken this long, but I love Taco Bell. I don't know
Okay.
if you knew that about me.
I I
Um,
I am I purposely don't want to learn how to pronounce the menu because I think it's funny. In my little that's my bit with my wife is when we go to Taco Bell. I just and I make up new names every time. So like I can't even really say it now because I'm so used to saying it wrong. I can't say it. She just is it? She just got home from work. I heard her sneaking. Gordita. I call them Gorrigas. I don't know why. Or I make up like these stupid names, and she'll be at the drive-thru like, "Shut the fuck up."
well, that's the beauty with their app is you don't have to pronounce it. You just gotta
Oh
click
no,
on
it's
the
more
picture.
fun to go through the drive-thru and just make her embarrassed that I'm just butchering names, and she's like, "They're gonna fucking spit in your food."
Um,
$45 later with this one.
but
She
But yeah, I love Taco Bell so much. I did have a podcast about it. It's called Taco Bell. There is an episode with Logan Easton Leroux on there. So
What's the
very
what's the premise of the podcast with Taco Bell? Like, what do you do?
so we go and eat Taco Bell before the podcast, and then we just talk about it. There's a little bit backstory, like who are you, whatnot, but
Mhm.
like mainly I just go through different segments I have, like how'd you start eating Taco Bell?
I love
Um,
that. I love that. You should
it,
bring this back.
I searched their Twitter to see what they were saying about Taco Bell and make them defend whatever they said. And then I make them invent a new item, because that's Taco Bell's gimmick, is there's always a new gimmick.
Yeah, please bring this back. Like, this has to be, and you can even do this remote. Like I can go to my local Taco Bell
Mhm.
and get stuff, and then you get it, and we just eat and talk. This can easily happen. You don't need to even be
Mhm.
with the person. Another fun thing is a Taco Bell gauntlet. I don't know if you've ever had that, because like what's the bit in Taco Bell is usually after you eat it, you're probably gonna uh, use the bathroom. So what you do is you get the taco box where it's like a shit ton of tacos, and you
Mhm.
just keep consuming them, and the last one standing, like between a bunch of people, like because everyone starts running and going, last
Look,
one standing, gauntlet
look,
style.
people always say Taco Bell makes you shit, but you know what makes you shit?
McDonald's,
Food.
yeah.
Food in general.
McDonald's, I literally put it in, and I'm like, see ya later, I'm gone.
Absolutely. The worst part of my night is realizing it's after 2 a.m. and I have to go to McDonald's because Taco Bell's closed.
Yeah, that's the worst, absolute worst. But please bring back that podcast. And it's called
Taco Bell, a podcast.
Taco Bell a podcast. I
You
will
can
I will
you
be
can
searching
still
it.
find episodes. They're up there. Um,
That is amazing. Please bring that back, Skiff. I think that's genius. Where can people find you on social media?
so Twitter is at JustSkiff. You have to include the word just to make that clear. At JustSkiff. Instagram's just.skiff, because I guess someone stole it before I could get it. But Twitter's the main thing I use. Probably the biggest way to find me. I promote the wrestling shows I'm doing. Flying V, I'm doing commentary on all those. They're on IWTV. And then I promote the comedy shows that I'm doing on Twitter as well. So if you're in the Northern Virginia, DC area, you can find that. Or if you're in Texas, I'm going to be there later this month for
Ooh.
comedy. But
I
yeah,
like the Virginia area because that's where all my sports teams are at. All my teams are Virginia teams. I'm a Washington fan. I'm a Capitals, Nationals, DC United. That's like that's my zen. That's my area.
look, the Cowboys were just practicing on Sunday. It's
Oh, they got
fine.
smacked up by a third stringer. I love to see that. Dude,
Well,
we literally threw away our season on a Carson Wentz experiment. Like what? I never wanted. I never got so angry at a football team or an organization. I hate Dan Snyder, by the way. I think he should be like drawn and quartered through the streets of DC.
you're not an outlier on that.
Yeah, I just hate that human being, and I almost not became a fan of that team because of just him, because he's just a dirtball human. But man, I went off on Twitter. Like I'd never do that, and I was just like, "Hey, at Commanders, remember that time you could have went to the fucking playoffs and you threw away our season, you scumbags!" Like,
but in the last offseason, Carson Wentz felt like a good option.
no, he didn't. Nope. I played that
No?
experiment
Okay.
living in PA with the Donovan McNabb, and then they're like, "We're gonna take Carson." I'm like, "We've done this. It's not gonna work. Taylor Heineke's your guy. We drafted Howell. Let's just roll with that." Nope. Let's bring in Carson and give him all that fucking money, and then they're probably not even gonna keep him next year, and we're gonna take a hit in our cap because, because we had to bring him in. Annoying. Hate it. Are you a Cowboys fan?
I am.
Oh man, sorry. You had all those points. Well, listen, it's been a great podcast. But yeah, and it's just, I don't know, it's a fun thing. Definitely start making more clips of your comedy. You sent me the one and I thought it was very entertaining, but I think you should cash in on that, man. Start clipping some more of your sets and put them out there for people to see.
Yeah, I did some of that during the pandemic. It's just a lot of the times it you don't get the best video, or you're like, that it doesn't hit quite as well as you wanted it to.
Mhm.
And so you start overthinking things.
I wish there was more of a comedy, like, and I also like don't have enough time in my day to do what I want to do and also help others, because that's my biggest problem is I jump in on, like, I can jump in here and help you guys grow, and then I just don't help myself. But like how wrestling shows need cameramen and need good equipment, just someone show up at a comedy show and just put a camera up there. You know what I mean? Just put a camera there and figure ways out to get the audio still to sound good and help these people get seen. That's my biggest thing, man, is I hate when there's such talented independent people and they're not being seen just because there's a lack of way of getting it done, you know?
Yeah, the issue is like it's almost true to form. Like if you set up your camera, things aren't going to go as good as when you don't set it up. When you forget to set it up, you're like, shoot, I should have set it up. And then when you do set it up, it's like, oh, I could have done better.
Yeah. You just gotta always have it there, because you never know. But okay.
I was gonna say, and it's just like trying to get the right moment. And so it is a lot of filming everything and then trying to make sure everything is as good as it's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, Skiff, I want to thank you so much. We are coming up to that hour mark. I've learned so much about you, and I'm excited to see you more. And with the high tension and the return of Camp Leapfrog, we do need the Skiff and Abs time limit draw bit. I think that needs to be a thing where you just can't beat each other, and the participation trophy just sits in limbo because nobody can lose it. I think that'd be a fun bit. But yeah, man, and maybe one of these days, if I'm down seeing a game, I'll see if it's the same time as a comedy thing's going on and come down and support you, man.
Yeah, definitely. Let me know. Thanks for having me on here. This is great.
Anytime, man. The door's always open. If you have anything you want to plug or go over or talk about, man, just hit me up, and I'd love to have you back on.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, man. Well, that's going to do it. Make sure you check the links below to support the guest, as well as all the stuff ABJ, as well as our wrestlers who can use your support right now. Next Tuesday's guest, I'll put them out right now. So episode 17 will be from the Sanctuary. Vincent Torres will be our first guest. That'll be earlier in the afternoon. And then later on that night, interview my first tag team with Security Inc. They are, if you like comedies and bits and stuff like that, they are going to be right up your alley. So make sure you tune in next Tuesday for those back-to-back interviews. Again, we're doing back-to-back, I believe, the entire month of January, which is exciting, starting this podcast off right. But without further ado, here is some Billy Trey to close us out. Thank you, my guy. The Converse Kid, link in the bio if you're looking for music for your podcast or even for your wrestling. If you need an entrance music, hit that kid up. He's very talented. He's playing all these instruments. He's amazing.